These are my last 20 hang glider landings of 2024, all 20 in a row. I didn't leave any out. So starting with a few of my last landings at Rainbow Beach in Australia. I've wanted to fly in Australia for a long time, and it was awesome to be able to do that, especially at this huge sand dune site of Rainbow Beach. You could come in super low over the sand, touch the sand, and then go back out and do it again. You could also skid to a landing just like here. I cannot tell you how many times I did that. We really had a lot of fun with it. The other cool thing about the site was you could be low on the dune or higher altitude, so kind of just a mix of both. It was such a fun site, and I totally recommend going there if you get a chance. From there, we went back home to California and our normal mountain flying. Here's me landing from my local site of Crestline at Andy Jackson Air Park. The notable part about that flight for me was it was the first time using a visor on my helmet, but I had it up for landing, so it didn't affect anything. Here is another landing at Andy Jackson. This one was really weird because the wind was coming almost 90 cross from the east, which is a very unusual direction. Fortunately, there were no paragliders on approach, so I was able to take my normal base leg and make it my downwind leg so I could land mostly into the wind. It wasn't the nicest touchdown, but considering the conditions, I will take it. For the winter holidays, we often like to go to Sonora Wings south of Phoenix in Arizona. It is a fantastic place to practice different approaches and landings. For the first flight of the trip, my friend Art let me fly his Falcon 195, which was super fun. Thanks, Art. From there, I went straight to trying RJ's U2 145. I wanted to try flying it, but I've been a little nervous because he's had some challenges adapting to landing it, but fortunately, I was able to stay on my feet. I figured I'd give it another go, so I did a sunset flight. Both times, I chose to land on a runway, so just in case I misjudged the flare timing and fell to the wheels, I'd have the best chance of rolling to a stop safely. I think it definitely helped being a little bit lighter on the glider, but I was really happy I got good landings on my first 2 flights on it. For my third flight on the U2, RJ let me borrow his helmet to try, just so I could see how it was different from mine. He really likes it. And by that point, I felt comfortable enough with the flare timing to try landing by the cone, which I did, so that was awesome. I am slowly trying to work my way up to higher performance gliders, so this flight I landed with half VG just to make it a little stiffer, make it go a little farther. I misjudged the wind strength and ended up overshooting the cone. The half VG probably didn't help with that, but I think it was mostly just misjudging the wind. So the great thing about Sonora is being able to practice different things for landings. So this time I wanted to try a rear wire flare. I've done them at the beach, but never on my Sport 3. So I gave it a try here, and it actually worked really easily. So on this one, I actually underestimated the wind. It was stronger than I expected it to be. So I ended up landing a little bit short of the cone, but what was interesting was when I flared, the wind kind of pushed me back, and it was kind of hard to get it out of the flare position. That's why I'm stumbling a bit there. This one was just pretty standard, nice flare. If you've noticed on the past couple flights, the camera cage on the back of my keel, that is a chase cam, and it's gonna come back up as being pretty relevant, but I'm also going to be making a video about my experience using it, so watch out for that. I was going to try a restricted landing field RLF approach on this one, but ended up not and just did this huge circle and huge final instead. I went for the rear wires again, but you'll see I flared a little bit early, so the glider went up high. You do have a little more force from the rear wires, so I had to run a bit to let the glider come down nicely. As soon as I turned onto final on this landing, I knew I was going to overshoot the cone, so I tried to just ignore it and have a nice flare. Sometimes I get too fixated on the cone and I'll flare early or late to try to get closer to it, which can end up in a bad touchdown and can be unsafe as well. So here I just tried to have a nice flare and I was happy with how I did. Back to the chase cam, like I promised. This was one of my most scary landings in a while because the chase cam mechanism broke and I couldn't bring the camera back in, so it was trailing behind me. You can kind of see it there. I had a plan in the case this happens, which I followed. I landed on the runway to give the camera the least chance of snagging, and then I did a rear wire flare because I felt that put me in the best crash position if necessary. Happy to discuss that further. Obviously, try not to get into that position in the first place. And then I was like, hey, the camera's still there, I'm here, that's great. We had to get some parts to fix the chase cam, so I flew RJ's U2 as I wanted to try flying it in some different conditions anyway. I actually flared a little late on this one, but it was fine, maybe because I'm a little light on the glider. I'm also working on minimizing my body movements on final because I think it might help with not dropping the wing. This next one was pretty standard. The main goal of this flight was to test the revived chase cam, so nothing too interesting on the landing. I overshot the cone quite a bit, but the landing itself was fine. We had a little more wind, so I did more of an S-turn approach, which was fun, not something I normally do. Normally I would do the downwind base final, though at Sonora it's cool because you can do literally anything and still land in the field pretty much. For the landing, I overshot the cone again, but the landing was fine. One of the Sonora Wings instructors, LJ, was testing a YouTube 160 he got, so I was like, might as well try flying it, why not? It's a bit big for me, so it was pretty slow, pretty easy to land, but it was just nice to try flying a different glider, and sunset flights are always really beautiful. This was my last flight of the year, so went for a good one. I did not get close to the cone, but you know, I had a great touchdown, fantastic landing to end the year on. Really happy we can get all this landing practice in at Sonora Wings and other places. If you're a hang glider pilot, I really recommend going there. And if you don't know how to tow yet, they have some great instructors for you to learn. So those were my last 20 flights of the year, but here are 3 bonus ones from February at the competition in Valle de Bravo in Mexico. I know people like to point out that wintertime Arizona conditions are easy, and that's totally true, so this is some variation. If you're a pilot, you probably already know that Valle is a high-altitude, very turbulent site, and I was pretty happy with my landings on this trip, in some various wind conditions. If you have questions or comments about landings, or hang gliding in general, feel free to put them below. Thanks for watching! Try a hang gliding lesson, come fly with us!